Hello and welcome to India Speak, podcast by the Center for Policy Research. I am Sushant Singh, Senior Fellow at CPR. You are listening to our special series titled Spotlight South Asia that brings leading experts from India's neighborhood to understand the events in these countries, whether from political, economic, or social, or from a domestic perspective. The country featured today is Afghanistan, and my guest today is Dr. Mirwais Balkhi. Dr. Mirwais Balkhi is a visiting scholar at Georgetown University's School of Foreign Services in the United States. From 2018-2020, he served as the Minister of Education of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. Earlier, Dr. Balkhi served as Afghanistan's Deputy Ambassador to India. He holds a PhD in International Relations with a specialisation in West Asia from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. He has published numerous academic articles, both in English and in Persian, and has also authored a book on the Balkhis of India. Dr. Balkhi, thank you. Welcome to Spotlight South Asia.
Thank you very much, Sushant.
To begin with, let me ask you, someone, who's on the outside, if you were to tell this to someone who does not know Afghanistan intimately as of this now, what has changed there in the last 1 year?
In the past 1 year in Afghanistan, a regime changed, a constitution abolished, the rule of law is replaced by the rule of decrees and farmans. Democracy is abandoned, and a despotic, radicalized, and tribal group rules the country. In summary, it's a total collapse of a nation state.
Would you like to expand on it? In what terms is the collapse there? Is it only in economic terms? Is it in humanitarian terms? Is it in social terms? Is it in political terms? Or is it a very vicious mix of all this?
It is in all aspects of life. When a country turns to an ungoverned space, you better know that all aspects of life is collapsed. That is why from the governance to the services like health services, like people services, like the law itself, the legal institutions, the political institutions. If you take it the market, if you take it the government system, if you take it the institutions, all other cultural organizations, all these institutions collapsed in the country. So you have, as a result, you have land with no government, a country with no institution, and the people are all kind of jailed, unfortunately, by a network, by an organization.
Dr. Balkhi, a lot of people have described it as a humanitarian crisis, as has been covered in the Western press as well. What exactly would the term mean when we talk about Afghanistan in terms of numbers, in terms of specific examples, in terms of really, something which should, bother people, which should move people across the globe?
If you believe in any parameter of humanitarian crisis, if you take any kind of language and literature, you can have the evidence from Afghanistan. For example, if you say in terms of governance, again, I repeat the same, you do not have any sort of governance to serve for the people of Afghanistan. You have a prevailing joblessness across the country among the young generation in Afghanistan. Less than 70% of the population is young generation below 35 years of age. You don't have any kind of job for these people. For example, you have lack of food in Afghanistan nowadays, not quality food, but food itself. That is why the people, they are facing hunger gradually, and you have all sorts of shortage of stocks in the country, not in the urban areas, not in the rural areas, in any parts of the country. At the same time, you do not have any kind of health services to the country. So the health service is collapsed again. You do not have that chain of command. You do not have that bureaucracy. You do not have that hierarchy. You do not have all the departments to serve the people or meet the expectations of any kind of health issues in the country. You do not have any kind of safety for the people. There is no rule of law. So people, they do not have any trust to pursue their legal issues, or, for example, to complain somewhere for their well-being, for their safety, for their security. So that is why when in an ungoverned space, you do not have a governance, you do not have food, you do not have job, and you do not have health department, that is the real humanitarian crisis you could imagine in a country or in a nation. So that is the parameter of the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan nowadays.
Dr. Balkhi, if I may ask you, what are the numbers we are talking about? Are we talking about 90% of the population, 70% of the population, or can we have an understanding from you, because you understand the country so well? What would be in your estimate, the kind of numbers that would be suffering from this kind of humanitarian crisis, whether it is pertaining to public health, whether it is pertaining to other services, as you just mentioned?
First of all, what I told you before, majority of the people in Afghanistan, like 65% of the people, they are living in the rural areas. And in the rural areas, you do not have any kind of services to the people. Then in the urban cities, in the major cities, also the situation is not good, because before Taliban, there were departments, there were institutions to serve the people in all these parameters of humanitarian crisis. So these departments are collapsed. There is no international support to these institutions. So the Taliban, they are not able to feed the people. They are not able to serve the people their health needs. So that is the condition, that is the situation in Afghanistan. So some of the media news, some of the media reports which we get from Kabul, that is the only spot that the Taliban, they are portraying, broadcasting the news to show their, for example, governance, and to show they're serving the people, which is not the correct in Kabul itself. Also, if you go outside Kabul, if you go, for example, outskirts of Kabul, you do not have any kind of such service to the people. So if I give the number, or if I say the estimation, I would say that less than 90% of the people of Afghanistan in the major cities and also in the rural areas, they are facing this humanitarian crisis, and the situation is getting worse day by day.
Dr. Balkhi, when you were in the government, was the bulk of these services provided by the government or by international agencies? And how was it being done then, which is not being done now?
It was a combination of the Afghanistan's national government and also the international and donors departments. So it was in a collaboration to serve the people of Afghanistan. Some of the areas were taken by different international organizations who were active in different parts of the country. Only I could say that in some of the war zone areas, maybe the needs of people were not met in any aspects of life. Otherwise, there was certain serious concerns for the central government's policies to serve the people. Not only the government was serving the humanitarian needs or aids, but also we were thinking about the development of the people in different parts of the country. So at least an institution was there running for the people, to serve the people of Afghanistan. Though there were political clashes, political fightings among the national leaders in major cities in Kabul, but the government was busy for serving the people, and the international organizations and departments were also busy to serve the people of Afghanistan, to supply water, drinking water, to build irrigations, to, for example, husbandry, and all sorts of the needs that the people they had in different parts of the country. Now, when you compare post-Taliban Afghanistan, first of all, those organizations, majority of these organizations, they left Afghanistan from the international departments or organizations. And then the institution is collapsing day by day. The bureaucracy is no more there. The capable people who were experienced to serve the people, so they have left Afghanistan, or they're leaving Afghanistan, or whether they are not in the office now and they just sit home. So these kind of situation resulted to not serve the people in a proper manner.
Dr. Balkhi, would it be fair to say that people of Afghanistan also feel let down by the international community now? Is there bitterness and disappointment against the international community when you talk to your friends back home, when you talk to your relatives back home, to other colleagues who were with you in the government?
Sushant, it depends whom do you speak in Afghanistan. Those who are idealist people, of course, they feel that let down, and they say that because of the internationals, irresponsibility, the Afghanistan condition got worsened, and the situation resulted to the current condition that we have in Afghanistan. And majority of people in Afghanistan, I would say that they are idealist people, and they were expecting from the allies, from the international friends of Afghanistan, global friends of Afghanistan, to meet the expectations of the people and to stand with the people of Afghanistan until the end, which did not happen. But if you speak with the minority realist people in Afghanistan, they take all the blames to the national politics level in Afghanistan. They know the regional political games and also the regional nature of the competitions. So they know that the states are not in a collaborative situation. Every state has its own national interest, selfish interest. So of course they would not go to help Afghanistan if the Afghanistan is not worthy and valued, does not have a valued position for their national interest. That's why, yes, the majority of the people of Afghanistan, if you ask, they would say we are let down by the international politics and power politics games.
Dr. Balkhi, now something which you understand better than most others, something which is very close to your heart as well, education. How badly has education suffered in Afghanistan in the last 1 year? And compared to what was achieved in the 20 years before that, in the 2 decades before that, whatever was achieved, how has education really suffered in Afghanistan in the last 1 year?
First of all, I would say that the difference is the backwardness and progression. In the past 20 years, the education sector in Afghanistan was progressing, developing in all aspects. For example, from the school environment to school construction, to recruitment of the experienced teacher, knowledgeable teacher, to attracting boys and girls to the school, to competency-based curriculum, and to all kinds of other elements of education. So that is why the education planning was going from an quantity-oriented policies to the quality-oriented policy. In Afghanistan, we were thinking to install a quality education for the children of Afghanistan. But overnight, in the past 1 year, all things changed to backwardness, unfortunately. Education sector suffered the most out of all other aspects in the country. You better know that now the girls are deprived to go to the high school in Afghanistan. And also for the boys also, there is no quality education in the country. The school environment is totally changed. The uniform, even the verbal curriculum, which is being insisted by Taliban's local commanders in different places of Afghanistan. So that is why in Afghanistan, the total catastrophe is for the education sector, and the biggest crisis is for the education sector. And I'm always concerned about the education, the total education in Afghanistan, not only girls' education, but education for boys, because we don't know the guarantees what would be the next curriculum that Taliban they are talking about for the children of Afghanistan, what kind of the citizens they want to get out of the school environment nowadays in the country. They are encouraging the religious madrasas across the country, and they always talk about establishing new madrasas in different districts of the country. Though we had the religious madrasa as an integral part of our education in Afghanistan. Even when I was there, I was investing on religious madrasa to teach modern religious theology and science, Islamic science to the students who were interested to Islamic studies. But nowadays, so the whole weight is on the religious madrasa to expand it, to install it, and to encourage so that the modern school students also they shift to the madrasas and they learn the not the Islamic science or Islamic studies, but the radicalized ideologic curriculum that they are verbally teaching in the religious madrasas.
Dr. Balkhi, if I may ask, what was the kind of budget Afghanistan was devoting towards education before Taliban came and captured power?
That was between 7 to 8% of the national budget that we had in Afghanistan, which was the least budget for a post-conflict situation or in-conflict situation, which I was always crying for that in the Parliament of Afghanistan, in the cabinet, that these budget hardly will run the education system, the current education system, and we cannot invest on education. We cannot think of quality education with these percentage of the budget allocated to the education sector in the country. And that allocation was also not only for the school education, but also to the higher education until the PhD level, which normally in a developed country, they talk about 25% of the allocation to the education sector. So that was the condition.
You spoke about higher education. What is the status of higher education now? What happened to all the higher education institutions, the universities, the programs which were giving postgraduate degrees and PhD degrees? What has happened to them now?
The status of higher education is also same like school education, because first of all, the private education is very much vulnerable in the country, unfortunately, because the private education is somehow even closed. Some of the private universities and institutions, they are hardly running the administration. The teachers, most of the teachers who had good education, qualified or certified professors, they left Afghanistan out of the country. For example, in one private university, out of 13 professors, we have now 4 of them. So 9 of them, they left the country. The same situation is in the public universities, government universities. Most of these professors, they left Afghanistan, or they are detained, tortured, arrested by the Taliban. Some of them under the name of democratic or, for example, secular professors. Now they are at home and they are not going to the university. So this is the condition with the higher education in Afghanistan.
And Dr. Balkhi, how is the economy doing, and what really would you expect the world to do to help out Afghanistan economy?
Again, in the economic aspect, when I was talking about the humanitarian crisis in the country, you can think what would be the situation of the economic aspects in the country. There is no any plan, there is no any roadmap for the economic needs or economic development in the country. Taliban, what they are doing is just to keep the value of the Afghani note against dollar. That's what they are doing, and that's also with the help of the international supports. The market is collapsed totally. The business community of Afghanistan, again, majority of them, they left Afghanistan. A small minority, a small number, they returned Afghanistan, but that also there is no guarantee how they can run the economic sector, because there is kidnapping, there is extrajudicial activities, there is no law and regulations, customs for the business community, and the local business sphere also is collapsed with the rise of Taliban and with the collapse of the Afghanistan's government. So so far, the only answer to the needs of, to the economic needs of people, the Taliban leadership, they gave is that it is the mandate of Allah who will feed the humankind. So that is the only response they are giving. That is why I would say that the Taliban, they are not an organization, political organization to think about the well-being of the people. So economic activities is not at the center, at the core of the Taliban's programs and plannings. So like the political situation, like the security situation, like the education situation, the economic aspect of Afghanistan society is also totally collapsed.
Dr. Balkhi, when Taliban took over, a lot of people said, "Oh, this is a different Taliban. It is not the Taliban which ruled earlier before they were thrown out of power." But has the nature of government and politics in Afghanistan really changed? Have the Taliban changed from what they were earlier? What did you see when you were in Afghanistan, or now that you hear from your friends and colleagues and family? How is the situation? Has the Taliban changed, or is it still the same old beast?
They are changed. They are totally changed. They learned new tactics. They learned new types of, methods of torturing the people, killing the people. They learn how to advertise themselves in the international politics. They learned how to convince some of the regional countries to strategize, a single goal. They learn how to all kinds of new techniques, new methods. They learn. So they are the higher version of what they were in the first rule. For example, before coming to Kabul, they were siding with many regional countries like Iran, like Pakistan, like all these countries to fight against the ANDSF, to fight against the international troops. as a tactical military program. But now when they are in power, so they have changed the definitions, the strategies to side with these countries, and so they have changed the priorities of their relations with these countries. That is why if you talk about a positive change, a positive version of the Taliban, there cannot be expected, because every day they torture the people, they arrest the people with different manners, with different approaches. Sometimes now they learn how to hide their crimes behind the curtains. So that is why they are a changed, higher or transformed version of the old traditional radicalism that they were portraying during the 90s.
But a lot of the government bodies, government institutions, bureaucracies that you established were taken over by the Taliban. So are they not using that bureaucracy, those engineers, those administrators, those development professionals, are they not using them at all in governance now?
Except the lower employees of the administration who are coming into the offices. The whole other levels of departments are replaced by, majority of them were replaced by the madrasa background people. So nowadays, the head of the traffic, the head of the finance department, the head of the HR department, the head of the, for example, external relations of a department, revenue department, all these departments, they are replaced by the madrasa background who have done religious education. So how can an administration run by the head or a responsible or in charge who does not have expertise, who does not have a professional education? So that is called the total collapse of the administration and institution in the country. So the only thing which is running nowadays in Afghanistan is the remainings of the institution which was invested and established for 20 years in the past in Afghanistan. But every day that's also collapsing. So that's why if you have, for example, major and main activities or cross-cutting activities that may, it is possible to run by maybe a common man. That also is hardly. But if we talk about the professional departments, executive departments, which needs professional people, then it would be very difficult even to convince you are in charge from the bottom up that how, for example, such kind of activities could be handled. That is why the past administration and the past institutional memory and departments are running no more there in Afghanistan, except in some cases that is also no guarantee how long it will continue.
Dr. Balkhi, as you mentioned, Afghan society changed dramatically in those 20 years when the Taliban were not in power and when there was a national government in place. How are these people, the normal Afghan middle class, the new middle class which came up, people who got educated, people who were working in business or otherwise, how are they responding to these changes which are taking place in Afghanistan? How are they looking at it now? Because this is a different Afghanistan than what it was in 98 or 99.
First of all, people are changed in Afghanistan. During 90s, we had a very traditional society, and the people, they had already experience of a long civil war in the country. And the people, they had just came out of the jihad situation in Afghanistan. So the Taliban they were not something very new and surprise for the people of Afghanistan, except for some of the major cities. But now, in the past 20 years, the people of Afghanistan, they are completely changed. Even in the rural areas, they have all sorts of awareness. They know their rights, their legal rights. They know their spaces, capacities, welfare, all sorts of the modern life they enjoyed, despite all insecurities prevailing in the country. So now these people, they are resisting against a traditional ideologic and a tribalized state in Afghanistan. You are always, I'm sure that reading news from Afghanistan, how the women community, how the young community, how even the tribal elders of the tribal societies, they are resisting against the Taliban's decrees. For example, the most recent cases in the southern Afghanistan, in the province of Paktia, the elders of the tribal people, they stood against Taliban for the girls' education, and they are somehow successful. That shows that even the tribal people, they are not accepting Taliban. And the biggest reason that when Taliban, they could not gain legitimacy among the people of Afghanistan, even among some of their own sympathizers, it means that the society in the ground is completely changed. They are not convincing with the Taliban, with such traditional government, with backwardness, with ideologies. So this is the great change. And that is why some of the Taliban leadership also, they are always delivering paradoxical commentaries. You know that sometimes some of them, they are saying that the girls' education is a must need in the society. And some others, they say something else. Some Taliban, they talk about modernity. Some of them, they refuse that. So the awareness of the people of Afghanistan influenced even the Taliban's leadership. So that is why the society is completely changed, transformed into a modern, aware nation. And that makes difficult the life of Taliban and the continuation of Taliban in Afghanistan. So people, they are uprising on different parts of the country and different levels, and they are not accepting the current condition in the country.
Dr. Balkhi, now a question which I'm sure you've been asked many times before, and you must be tired of answering it. What exactly went wrong last year?
I would say I always see the situation from the national level than international level, because I always say that if there was a unity politically, a rationality politically within the Afghanistan's political community, then it would not have been done, or the situation was completely different. Certain selfish and self-interest, behaviors and mentalities of the national leaders in Afghanistan resulted to the impoverishment of the institution in the country. So we sacrificed the institution of Afghanistan, a young institution of Afghanistan, for the self-interest in the country. That resulted to the reduction of the legitimacy of government among the people of Afghanistan. So people in different parts of the country, they could not trust to the institution, and they were not aligned with the institutions in the central government of Kabul. So that is why people, they went alternative ways, or whether they were completely abstain, and they were not concerning about anything. Even some of the people in Afghanistan, it was hard and difficult for them to judge between the central government and the Taliban. So that kind of situation resulted to the total collapse of the country. So the collapse was not overnight. The collapse was a result of the sacrificing the institution of Afghanistan for past 20 years, which the international investment and international cooperation also did not work, and the international allies of Afghanistan reached to an exhaustion and fatigue, and as a result, they also left Afghanistan easily.
Dr. Balkhi, one last question. You know India very well. You studied here. You traveled in India extensively. How do you see India's role in Afghanistan now?
A disappointing rule for the people of Afghanistan. India, until 2014, was a unique approach, a unique modality for the people of Afghanistan. I was always justifying for British, for American, for others to follow the modality of Indian approach to Afghanistan for the investment, for national projects across the country, and for an apoliticized approach in the country. That is why the people of Afghanistan, no matter from what part of the country, from what ethnic background, they were all happy from the Indians' approach. I would talk about the government of India, not the people of India. That's completely different aspect, which is completely natural relations between two nations. But government-wise, the people were very much happy, and there was no any complaint at all in Afghanistan, despite the interventions of our neighbors in this relation. But after 2014, New Delhi's approach in Afghanistan becomes more politicized, unfortunately. And the situation got worse because the government of India intervened politically in Afghanistan, talking about government recognition, supporting, and all these things. So a major parts of the country who were either apoliticized or they were the natural friends of India, now they are complaining from the New Delhi's approach towards Afghanistan. The recent meetings of the representatives of New Delhi in Kabul, when I see the social media among the people of Afghanistan, I can see that how they are hurt, and they were not expecting these, at least from India, the same from some other countries or friends of Afghanistan. So that is why I would say that New Delhi's shift of policy towards Afghanistan is from a strategic friendship to a tactical friendship, and that is mostly Pakistan-oriented policies towards Afghanistan. I was always saying that in relations between India and Afghanistan, we talk beyond Pakistan, because that is an accident between India and Pakistan historically. But the relations goes deep and deep and deep into the ancient Mahabharata. If you see, you could see very much evidences and connections between the Kabul civilization and the different cities in India. So that is why I think it would be very much better to switch again to the natural and also apoliticized approach to the people of Afghanistan, which the people need nowadays, India, more than any other regional countries in Afghanistan, which again can at least convince the people of Afghanistan that India is not seeing Afghanistan from the security issues or from the Pakistan-oriented policy.
Dr. Balkhi, which is the one Indian food or dish you still miss when you are in the United States or when you are in Afghanistan?
I miss all Indian food, and even in the US also, when I was in Qatar also, I was going to some Indian restaurants, some Indian cuisines, and I always take, and I cook at home also. So all the Indian food, I have that taste, and that's very tasty food.
Dr. Balkhi, as always, it was a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you in India sometime and hosting you for a lovely meal.
Thank you very much. See you, inshallah, in New Delhi.
To our listeners, thank you for listening. For more information on our work, follow us on Twitter at CPR_India and log on to our website at www.cprindia.org.